You are now watching the Ball and Beats podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ball and Beats podcast, episode 133.
Dang.
We keep chugging along these episodes, man.
That's right.
Keep
That's
pumping
a
it
lot of
out.
them.
You know what I'm saying?
133.
Logan and Spencer here today. It's been a busy day already.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. How you doing, Spence?
I'm doing fantastic. It's opening day. Why wouldn't I be doing great? We had a lot of stuff going earlier, and we keep chugging along. And the weekend's coming up, so why else can you be? Good mood.
It's always a good mood, specifically when MLB opening day is today at the time of this recording.
It's the best.
Is
it's
it?
the best. It's the best sport in the world.
It is?
Mm-hmm.
Is that so?
It is.
What makes it the best sport in the world, Spencer?
Because the best part about it is fans overreact after one game. And, I will probably overreact after the Tigers lose tonight to the Dodgers. But at the same time, it's like it's 162 games. It's a marathon. You get so many exciting prospects coming up for all across. You have teams that have, playoff aspirations, World Series aspirations, and you get to watch the best baseball player to ever play the game in Shohei Ohtani. So why else wouldn't it be the best game in the world?
Specifically when he's about to hit 2 home runs against you guys tonight.
Oh yeah, no, we got the best pitcher in the world on the mound tonight.
It'll
be a 2-1 final.
That's fair.
Well, our pitching staff is very good this year, but our offense is gonna score like 2 runs a game. So it's either 2-0, 2-1, or 1-0. That's it. Unless we're facing the White Sox, then we'll be fine.
It's all right. At the time of this recording, the Guardians are already losing 3-2 to the
you
Royals.
Hate to see it.
You do hate to see it.
You just hate to see it.
It's okay, though, because personally, I think the Royals are one of the better young teams in baseball. Bobby Witt Jr., dog. Michael Massey,
he's
dog.
the best shortstop in baseball right now. He already is. And it's not even close. Bobby Witt Jr., since coming up from the minors with Kansas City and the Omaha Storm Chasers back in 2021, he's been nothing short of phenomenal. And this Kansas City Royals team, they added Jonathan India, who's a solid second baseman there. Vinny Pasquantino can have a solid year. I think he's an up-and-coming first baseman as well. And obviously you have the captain, Salvador Perez, who is still chugging along at age, I think, 35. So, and they have solid pitchers in Seth Lugo and Cole Ragans, and they got a really good bullpen. So this Royals team is going to – the Central's going to be so hit or miss. I couldn't tell you who wins the Central, except the White Sox. The White Sox have no shot.
I remember that year just a couple years ago where everyone thought the White Sox were going to be like the best team in baseball.
People forget they had a great system in place, and then they hired Tony La Russa, and then it all went to crap. That's what happens when you make a terrible managerial hire. They should have hired A.J. Hinch. I'm glad they didn't because the Tigers got him, and now he took us to the playoffs. Yeah, they had prospects all around. The White Sox had one of the brightest futures in baseball, and they threw it all away because Jerry Reinsdorf's a terrible owner, and they can't do anything worth a damn in their organization. So, I mean, it's fine by me. It's another team not to worry about in the Central, but everybody else is I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting in the AL Central.
I kind of want to talk and pivot to the NL Central a little bit and talk about the Cincinnati Reds bringing in Terry Francona to be their manager.
Like that hire a lot.
I wanted to have you dive in a little bit deeper and what that could mean for the Reds this season.
I love the Terry Francona hire. He's an older guy, but the thing is he's one of the best managers. He got jobs in Boston and won a World Series with the Red Sox. Then he went to Cleveland, obviously, and went on that tear with the Indians. They didn't win the World Series. They blew a 3-1 lead, but at one point they won 22 straight baseball games, and that's the American League record. Yeah, he's a great managerial hire. I love what the Reds are doing. They have a lot of young guys. Spencer Steer, obviously Ellie De La Cruz. Matt McClain is going to be healthy again. And they got Gavin Lux from the Dodgers, who's a solid second baseman and a young-ish guy. And I do like their starting pitching staff with Hunter Green. Their biggest issue is going to be their bullpen and at the bottom half of their lineup. It's not great. Jake Fraley is one of their key guys on the bottom of their lineup. He's up and down, but he's not like a great guy. He's not a great utility player. But this Reds team, it's going to be close. The NL Central could be, there's like the Cubs. I like what the Cubs did, although I thought missing out on Bregman was big. I honestly thought Bregman was going to go there if he wasn't going to go to the Tigers. The Cardinals are dead. Forget about the Cardinals. The Pirates are dead. They have no offense. Save Paul Skeens, please. This man is unbelievable. And then there's the Brewers, who seem to win the division every year. No one talks about them. But they lose in the NL wild card round every single year. But we'll see. The best thing about baseball is there's so much parity, except the NL West. The NL West is owned by the Los Angeles Dodgers. But everywhere else, parity. There's teams, like 2 or 3 teams from each division that could win it, except the NL West. There's no way the Dodgers don't win it.
I want to go back to the American League. Talk about the AL East, because there's a young team out there in Maryland in the Baltimore Orioles.
Yep.
I feel like they're pretty primed for a run.
I do too, but I gotta be honest. I'm not gonna cuss because I don't want you to edit out. I thought they had a really crappy offseason. They let Corbin Burns go. They didn't re-sign Anthony Santander, and they didn't do anything, worth a damn in the offseason. They didn't sign anybody. Zach Eflin, really?
Don't make fun of Zach Eflin.
Their starting pitching staff is not great.
No.
I mean, it's okay. Grayson Rodriguez is hurt, and he's going to come back in probably mid-May, but they better hope he's their ace, because if he's not, this team their starting pitching staff is not great. Their offense is good. I think they'll take a little bit of a step back because of losing a team captain in Anthony Santander. But I will say, you have Gunnar Henderson, you have Adley Rutschman, who had a down year last year. I think he'll be better. You have Jordan Westberg, you have Cedric Mullins. This team has so many weapons on offense to where I think that they'll just outscore their opponents. Their pitching might not be the greatest, but I think that they'll just outscore them, because that offense, even with losing Santander, is it's still really good.
14 runs a game coming out of Camden Yards, huh?
Yeah. Did you see that they did their ballpark again? They redid their left field wall again for the 3rd time. Yep. They moved it in a little bit because it was an eyesore out in left field. Well, what about your? Well, I would say your Rays, but what do you think?
We can still talk about the Rays a little bit, even though I may have denounced them on this podcast. I'll still talk about the Rays and playing in a spring training facility.
That's embarrassing.
It's all right. I mean,
in the show they play at Trop.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I barely know anyone left on the team besides Yanni Diaz.
Junior Caminero has been pretty good for him.
Yeah, Caminero's good. They did get Kim as well.
I think so, Kim. Yep.
But other than that, I don't really have a lot more to add to the Rays because, well,
they're a forgettable team.
They're a forgettable team. Besides the fact that they always are top 3 farm system in baseball, because that's the only way they can build is through the farm system. Other than that, this Rays team is going to win about 65 to 80 games this year, and be probably 4th in the AL East.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be very good, but I don't think they're going to be terrible. They do have some pieces. I think Junior Caminero, he's had a great spring.
Yeah.
And their starting pitching staff with Shane McClanahan is still pretty solid, and Shane Baz. But this team needs way too many pieces, and they just have so much going on with the stadium. Spring training stadium is embarrassing, and same thing with the Sacramento Athletics. They're not Sacramento, but they are. It's embarrassing to be playing in a minor league stadium. I don't care, what you say. The Rays, if you didn't think anybody showed up to their games before at Tropicana Field, there might be 5 fans at the Yankees minor league stadium there. So it's going to be really funny to watch, to be honest with you. Both Oakland, I keep calling them Oakland. They're Oakland. I don't care. They're not in Las Vegas yet. Before Oakland and Tampa Bay. So.
Yeah, Tampa Bay just needs to relocate to Montreal, become the Expos again.
Or Nashville.
Everyone keeps talking about Nashville.
Nashville's
going to
need a team. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Tennessee deserves a baseball team. That'd be really cool.
You would think with how good
they have a minor league team. The Smokies. They're the Knoxville Smokies. But they don't have a major league team. That'd be really cool.
What's one team you think is too overhyped that you think's gonna kind of not be good this year? Kind of lay in the bed.
I can't say the Dodgers. While I'd love to say the Dodgers,
there's just no shot. They're winning 145 games this year.
I can't say that. Probably the Astros, honestly. I feel like the Astros, that with all that they've had in the dynasty of making in the ALCS, 7 years in a row, they got ended last year. So bad by the Detroit Tigers. This Astros team, I don't think is going to be very good this year. I said this a few episodes ago. I think that they're going to be around a 500 baseball team. They lost a ton, and while they still have retained some talent, why would you move a 34-year-old Jose Altuve to left field? He's been a second baseman his entire career. Why would you change that? It doesn't make any sense to me. And another team is the Cubs, probably. I think the Cubs are going to be good, but I don't like their pitching staff other than Shota Imanaga. They have a ton of holes in their lineup. Their third baseman situation is not great. They have Justin Turner, who's like 500 out there playing third base. And their outfield, besides Kyle Tucker, is not great. They have Pete Crow Armstrong, who's a rookie, or he was a rookie last year, and he had an up and down year. But I don't think the Cubs are going to be very good, and I don't think the Astros are going to be very good. I think they're going to be around 500 baseball teams.
So who's going to be that team that no one's going to think about that ends up? There's always one baseball team or two baseball teams every year. Preseason, no one really thinks of them, and then you're halfway through the season, and they're like first or second in their division randomly. Mm-hmm. Who's that team this year?
So I'll give you one from each league. I talked about it in the episode a few weeks ago. From the National League, I really like this Nationals team. This Nationals team is young. They're hungry. Well, there's no way they win the division because the division is just way too stacked. The Braves are better. The Mets are better. And the Phillies are better. But this team can make some damage, and this team I think can win some games late to where they can be around a 500 baseball team. I think that they're going to impress some people, and I think that they're going to really set a foundation for the next year to come because, C.J. Abrams is a very good shortstop. They have Dylan Cruz and James Woods in the system, Mackenzie Gore. I think that this Nationals team, and they have some other solid pieces as well. They got Lowe, and I really like this team's foundational pieces, and I think that they're going to keep trending upwards. From the American League, there's a few teams. I'll go with the Kansas City Royals. I like the Royals a lot. I chose the Tigers to win the division in my prediction just because I want to, and I want to see it happen, and I do think it can happen. But the Royals are the next team, in my opinion. If not the next, I think that they could win it. It's either the Tigers or the Royals. Bobby Wood Jr. might be one of my favorite players to watch in baseball. He's so electric. He's only 24. He got paid by the Royals, deservedly so. And this team just has young pieces in Michael Massey and MJ Melendez, Vinny Pasquantino, as I saw. And then they have Salvador Perez, who's a captain. He's got a C on his jersey. One of the only teams I think that does that.
Yes.
But it's great because I truly believe he is one of the greatest catchers in our generation. And, he won a World Series with the Royals. It was 10 years ago, but he did. And I think that this Royals team can make some noise because I think that the American League, if you ask me, I don't think that there's that it team. I think that the Yankees took a step back.
Yes.
I think that the Guardians took a step back, the two teams in the ALCS. I think that the AL could have so much parity. I could see the Royals going on a run. I could see, a team like the Orioles, obviously, finally getting over that hump and making it back to the World Series. The American League's wide open, in my opinion. I think that there's a few teams that can win it because I don't think that the Yankees are going to recover from losing Juan Soto. And they don't have Garrett Cole. They lost him to Tommy John. And newsflash, pitchers to come back from Tommy John don't start out throwing like aces right away. Takes them a long time. But it's going to be a lot of fun. The American League's, you could see a ton of teams winning it. On the National League, it's only a few, in my opinion. The Dodgers, the Braves, Phillies, or the Mets. It's one of those four teams, in my opinion.
Why not the Padres?
No, the Padres. The Padres don't have enough. Pitching isn't great. The starting pitching isn't great. The bullpen is up and down, and they don't have enough offense. Jackson Merrill's been really good for him. I think he's, but rookies tend to have sophomore slumps. We'll see if it happens. The only dude that I am pretty sure that will not have a sophomore slump is Paul Skeens. I think he'll dominate once again. And, we'll see. I think that the Padres are okay. But you're in a division with the Dodgers. Yeah, and you're in the division with the Diamondbacks, who I think can also make a run. I don't think they can win the NL. I think there's better teams, but the Diamondbacks got a lot better in the offseason.
Yeah, I know you have already given your World Series prediction here.
Phillies and Rangers.
Phillies, Rangers. You know, I have to say the Dodgers out the National League. I don't know how you can't, really.
I want to do something different.
You know.
Phillies it's Red October, baby. It's going to be Red October this time.
You know, I would love to see. I think Philly may be that one team that can do it this year. Can get over the hump. It feels like it.
So much power.
But you can't pick against the Dodgers right now. You know, they finally got over that hump, won another World Series here recently, and they just keep getting every single best player under the sun on their payroll. So I don't know how you can not pick the Dodgers, unless that team gets injured to all hell.
Yeah, no, they have way too much talent with Ohtani, Betts. Shout out Freddie Freeman, one of my buddy's favorite players that left his team a few years ago. Probably should have stayed if it wasn't for his agent, but we don't have to talk about that.
Yes. For me, out the American League, I think it's going to be one of these young teams that comes up. I personally think it'll be Baltimore or Kansas City. Mm-hmm. That makes the World Series. I like the Royals. I like the Royals a lot. And like you said with Bobby Witt Jr., I think he's not just the best shortstop. I think he's a top 5 player in baseball right now.
Yeah.
I like Kansas City.
Him and Gunnar Henderson are close. But I think Bobby Witt's got the upper hand.
So my World Series, Royals, Dodgers. You know what? Kansas City's going to beat the Dodgers in the World Series.
Oh, my. Small market versus a big market. I would love to see it.
Win it for the
Honestly,
first time.
just don't let the Dodgers win it. I don't care. As long as it's not the Yankees out of the AL or the Guardians, I really don't care. I would love to see. I don't like Cleveland.
Why not the Guardians?
Because David Fry does not want me to see happiness, and I don't care for him very much. And Stephen Kwan is so annoying.
He's so good.
He won't get out.
He's so good.
I don't know if you watched the ALDS last year.
I watched a little bit.
Guardians and the Guardians. This dude could not get out.
Mm-hmm.
Every time it'd be an 0-2 count, he'd get a slap hit, a bloop single. It'd be something stupid. He'd get on base, and then he'd always get to third. Mm-hmm. It was so annoying. And David Fry was prime Barry Bonds with the roids in that Game 5 with that grand slam. It was so annoying. But
I don't care what anyone says. Bring roids back to baseball.
Thomas too.
No, I'm just kidding. That's just a very. I have that opinion of bring roids back to baseball. I don't think a lot of people agree with me there, but that's just me. Yeah. I mean, I want to see Barry Bonds hit like 80 home runs a season. That's just me. Okay? That's just me. That's not for everybody. Yeah, I'm not a baseball guy, really at heart, like this guy is next to me.
Yeah, David Fry, I could go on a rant about him. Sorry, it was actually Lane Thomas with the grand slam, but David Fry had the game-winning home run in Game 4 that the Tigers were winning. And I wanted to go to the ALCS, and I wanted to get swept by the Yankees or maybe win a game. But it would have been cool. But
the Guardians are now up 4-3 over the Royals as we speak in the bottom of the 6th. Shout out the Guardians. AL Central champs this year.
Oh, my. Yeah.
So.
Sure. Shane Bieber's going to come back, and he's going to be the ace that Cleveland needs him to be. Tanner Bybee really gets, makes me shake in my boots.
He really does, since he was a scratch for food poisoning.
Remember Tristan McKenzie?
I do remember McKenzie.
When he had that Linsanity run a few years ago, and then he's been utter crap since.
What has happened to the Toronto Blue Jays? That's what I want to talk about, because
their organization is a failure. It's a failure.
It has to be. Like, what was it, 2-3 years ago? That was Toronto's year to finally go on the run to the World Series, and ever since then, it's just fallen apart. It has completely fallen apart.
Yeah, the Blue Jays need to pay Vladdy. I mean, they're not going to, and they actually offered a contract to him yesterday, and he's going to say no because he doesn't want to do that during the season. But he's going to go in the offseason. He's going to just get a boatload of money. He's going to get $30 million a year, maybe $35 from a team. He's only 25, 26. He's a first baseman. He is one of the best first basemen in baseball. I know he's had an up and down career, but at the end of the day, he's still one of the elite in the game. And the Blue Jays, with them not signing Bo Bichette, with them not re-signing Matt Chapman a few years ago, with them not going to re-sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr., with them trading Teoscar Hernandez for Dalton Varsho, who's been a no-show, and George Springer's just old. He's not good anymore. he had like a 240 average, which isn't bad, but like his OPS was like just over 700. And for a guy you're paying $15-20 million a year, he better be having an OPS of over 800. But at the end of the day, the Blue Jays, they made terrible decisions. They're also in a really good division. They're with the Yankees. They're with the Red Sox. A few years ago when the Rays were actually something. And now the Orioles, the up-and-coming team, who is looking to reclaim, the AL East crown from the Yankees. It's going to be interesting. I think that the Blue Jays, watch out for them at the trade deadline, because if they're hovering around 500 and there's a playoff spot a few games, they're going to make a desperate move. They're going to trade. They are going to go all in this year to try to make a run. And they are going to be bad for a while. Because when they lose Bo Bichette, when they lose Vladdy, when George Springer continues to get older, when Dalton Varsho is hitting 220, they're going to do nothing. And they're in the AL East. Yeah, have fun winning 65 games a year. Too bad, so sad. Should have paid your players.
Speaking of the Blue Jays, and we've talked about the Orioles, it's 9-2 currently at the point in the bottom of the 7th. So
That
Orioles
offense.
are pretty close to being on par for 14 runs.
Yeah, that offense.
So there you go, talking about two different stories of two AL East teams. 3 years ago, we're having the same conversation about the Orioles being bad. So
It's crazy what happens in a few years.
the resurrection of the Orioles,
It's crazy what happens when like a number 1 overall pick actually pans out the way he's
Yes.
supposed to be.
Oh,
I know, what a concept, right? It's almost like if you draft a number 1 overall pick, you should get a guy who hits 30 home runs a year or has an ERA of 2 every single year. That's not always the case, though, unfortunately.
No, it's not.
Player development is not great for some teams.
Some teams, that's all it has to be, though, and all it can be, because they just don't have the payrolls.
Tampa.
Tampa
is
with the 30th place payroll,
But they always have a high farm system.
Some teams, they just have to. And here's the truth about baseball and the payroll. These teams really can spend if they actually wanted to.
Yep.
Let's be honest. It's the owners being greedy.
Yep.
That's why all these franchises in baseball, they're content for being middle-of-the-pack teams.
They want to play money ball.
Yes, exactly. And you can pay. You realistically can go out and get anybody you really wanted to. Any team could. If they really tried, could do so. But, some teams are a little more greedy with their money, and some teams will throw it at you.
Some teams just burn money to burn money. The Dodgers and the Yankees. The Dodgers do it right. The Yankees, it depends.
Yes.
Max Fried is not worth how much he got.
No, he is
sorry.
not.
I know we have a Braves fan. A few episodes. Max Fried is cool and all. He is not worth the money he got from the Yankees, but he's no longer your problem. So, shout out Spencer Schwellenbach.
Shout out. Real quick before we pivot, this conversation to March Madness, gotta get some illustrious B&B water.
Real quickly before we go into March Madness, do a little quick spiel about the Tigers. Real quick. I want to say something about the former Tigers general manager. His name is Al Avila. I could say some things to get me canceled about him on here, so I'm not going to do that. He was not a very nice man. He wasn't. He went on a podcast, I think it was last week, and I heard a snippet of it. He's talking about the 2021 offseason. For any Tigers fans out there, it's when we got Baez. He went on
your best
there.
Player you've had in a long
It's either
time.
21 or 22. I think it was actually 22. Either way, he came out and basically said, we had people in the organization that were telling us that he was on the decline, but my owner, Chris Ilitch, when I came up with another player, Carlos Correa, he's like, I don't know, why don't we spend a little cheaper and go towards our other players and maybe maximize our budget. So they optimized and got Javier Baez, who is going to have the worst contract in sports history, one of the worst, because we still have him for 3 or 4 more years. And he was last year, statistics-wise, the worst player in baseball. So that's the starting shortstop. That is the leader of the infield for the playoff-bound last year Detroit Tigers, who didn't have Baez because he was hurt, thankfully. And
why don't you rock the jersey you have of Javi Baez?
he's back out there. Trey Sweeney, cool and all. He'd be a hell of a lot better than Baez. He's not starting. So we're stuck with Baez at shortstop until Kevin McGonigal comes up through the system, or to one shortstop. Maybe we'll sign I don't even know at this point. Can we trade for Ellie De La Cruz or something?
What about Spencer Gallup? Would he be a better shortstop than Javi Baez?
He would be. He would be. I played shortstop in high school. I could play it better than him. I can actually hit the baseball and not swing at a slider that's 5 feet off the plate. Yeah, he's going up against the Dodgers tonight, and so is Ryan Kreidler. So yay me. I can't wait. But Tarek Skubal, primetime TV. So we're all good. Pay him, by the way. You don't pay him, we're going to have some problems, and I'm going to drive up to Illich Industries myself, and I'm going to say some not nice words to Scott Harris and Mr. Chris Illich. So March Madness time.
March Madness, indeed. Here's the issue with March Madness this year. Hasn't necessarily been a lot of madness throughout the first March Madness.
March averageness.
You see, that's why we love March Madness, though, is because of the aura, if you will. McNeese. Shout out Amir Khan.
That was cool off for one game.
Hey, but he's hitting the portal, too. Can we talk about that?
He should go to NC State with him.
That's what he is. He is going to NC State.
It was confirmed?
It was confirmed, yeah.
Good for him. He had an NIL deal.
He didn't have one, didn't have two, didn't have three. I'm pretty certain he got four as a student
came
manager.
With a Buffalo Wild Wings boombox for their game against Purdue. I was like, dang, that's crazy.
It just goes to show maybe we don't have as much aura as we think here on the Ball and Beats podcast.
Maybe, if Toledo would actually make the tournament for once in their sorry lives, we would actually be able to do something like that.
They're
allergic to winning when it matters.
They are allergic to winning, and that's okay, though. But with this tournament so far, I mean, I watched Florida and Walter Clayton Jr. I watched Cooper Flagg and Duke. This year, it's the year of the best teams. They are just that good. And in a era of name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal era in college athletics, there's one team left in the Sweet 16. You saw that little lip lick right there? Shout out, episode 130. There's one team left in the Sweet 16. All starting 5 players are from that school that they started at. Can you name that school, Spencer?
Purdue? Purdue?
It is Purdue.
Oh, wow.
Purdue's starting 5.
Ding, ding, ding.
is all from Purdue. Everywhere else has
really?
At least one starter
I
that was a
Braden
former
Smith
transfer.
Went somewhere. That's why I was double checking. I knew Kaufman Rain was from there. And then the lawyer kid, but I couldn't remember where Braden Smith. I thought he went to a lower level school, but good for him. Good for Purdue.
The only school that's close to them is Michigan State with 4 starters, all from Michigan State. See, and this is what I kind of want to bring up here is the transfer portal and the NIL. I think long term, March Madness won't be madness. It will be midness, because all the best teams, best players at these smaller schools. Walter Clayton Jr., former Iona player, okay? Other players on literally Florida's entire starting lineup is all transfer guys. The entire starting lineup, all transfer players. You look at BYU, vast majority, transfer players. Alabama, good amount, transfer players. Maryland, you have a little more pieces there, still transfer guys. Duke, besides Cooper Flagg, Tyrese Proctor, you've got transfer guys. So, and Arizona, of course, with Caleb Love. Is Love in the air again? The Duke killer?
Love needs to get a job at this point. God, I feel like he's been in college for forever.
He has been in college forever.
Get a job, dude.
Good matchup here tonight, which will already be over with by the time this episode comes out. Duke, Arizona. Caleb Love, he is the Blue Devil Slayer. Is Love in the air tonight?
The problem is Love will either shoot you out of the gym or he'll win you a game. He just shoots the ball, but if he's on, he won't miss. If he's missing, he won't make.
Yes.
It's the most hot and cold player in basketball. I don't know, man. This Duke team is on another level. We talked about it with the last time all 1 seeds made the Final Four. It was in San Antonio. Was it 2007?
Yeah, 2008.
2008.
Kansas, Memphis, UCLA, North Carolina.
I will say, though, I think a 1 seed is losing in the Sweet 16. I personally think it's Auburn. I think Michigan will beat Auburn.
Okay.
The way that Michigan played against Texas A&M in that second half, it was unbelievable. You know, when Golden and Wolf and Trey Donaldson and Will Cheddar are all playing at a high level, and you know, you can say what you want about them. They play really good. I mean, this Michigan team, you can say what you want about them, how they're boring or how it's just two big guys and that's it. I don't want to hear it. Roddy Gale had a great game in that round of 32. And I don't like Roddy Gale because, and neither do Michigan fans. They don't even like him.
They kept
it was a
saying
former
he was the worst
Buckeye,
player.
but he was bad. I don't care that he went to Michigan. He just was bad. He'd average 12, 13 points a game, but he'd shoot 20% from the field. He just wasn't good, but he'll have a Linsanity moment. Maybe it continues into the Sweet 16. I just think that this Michigan team's playing at a high level. I think Auburn is very vulnerable right now. Florida is another one of those teams. They looked vulnerable against UConn. They probably should have lost to UConn if it wasn't for Walter Clayton, you know, coming into his own in the last few minutes. The two teams that I think are on a tear are Houston and Duke. Houston and Duke, I think we're going to win their regions the way that they're playing right now.
And, you know, when it comes to Houston, I think they're one of the most not talked about one seeds ever because this team, this is their third straight year as a one seed. They've pretty much been a one seed pretty consistently, really the last like 6 seasons of basketball, or 1, 2, or 3. Kelvin Sampson is a top 3 head coach in college basketball.
Yep.
Very consistent program. A lot of hoopers that have come through in the last 7 years down there in Houston, Texas. And this year, I think, is their best team they've had. Even, I think it's just the best collective unit. They've had better players, but this unit is so dynamic. Defensively, they're the only team left in the tournament that gives up less than 60 points a game on average.
Yeah.
In college basketball, you don't hear that.
That's unbelievable.
Not today.
And Duke and Gonzaga gave them a fight. Like Gonzaga, you know, Mark Few and and the Zags, they put up a fight, but Houston made it out in the end, and I have a ton of confidence in this Houston team right now making it to the Final Four. Just like Duke. I think Duke's just going to roll through these teams, to be completely honest with you. Nobody's playing better than the Duke Blue Devils right now. Is it close? Not really, in my opinion, because Florida probably should have lost to UConn. You had Auburn in a fight with Alabama State and then Creighton, and then you have Houston, who is probably the second best. Gonzaga gave him a fight, but Houston overcame it in the end and shot the lights out of the gym. I love this Duke team, and I know I chose them to win the national title. I still think they do.
Literally nothing can sway it.
I don't think anything can sway it the way that they're playing right now. And the one thing that I will be rooting for is Michigan State Elite Eight. And I know I'm a Buckeye fan, but that would be so cool to watch an all Big Ten, rivalry Elite Eight game. It'd be up there with the Final Four of Duke versus North Carolina from a few years ago.
Yes, it would.
Which was an amazing game to watch. And while Michigan State's won 2 games against Michigan and they've been decisively, it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yes.
And we've learned about that. So
I do want to talk about this with Michigan State, though. They cannot continue to play this way that they have in this game against Ole Miss on Friday. They have started out slow both games so far against Bryant and New Mexico. Yes, they have Jace Richardson. They have Cohen Carr off the bench. They have other pieces as well, but Ole Miss and Chris Beard, he's been here before.
Chris Beard's a top 5 basketball coach in college.
He just needs to stay out of trouble.
He needs to stay out of trouble, but he's one of the best coaches in all of NCAA.
Sean Padula for Ole Miss might be one of the best players in this tournament, and if he gets hot, Ole Miss can get hot.
Ole Miss shoots the lights out. They will shoot the 3, and they will shoot it well.
Ole Miss can bite Michigan State 100%. And we know how Michigan State has been in the tournament historically.
They tend to choke. But this is Izzo's one of his most balanced teams in forever.
And it's a team
and it's
thought
honestly
would be.
His best team since 2019
with
with Cassius. You could say 2020 as well. But since the Cassius teams, easily. With you being a Michigan State fan, in basketball, I'm cheering for the Spartans, to be completely honest. I like Tom Izzo. I think I want him to win another national championship because he's only won 1 at Michigan State.
And it's been 25 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a quarter century, but
And that was the last time, real quick, that was the last time the Big Ten won a title as well.
Yep.
The Big Ten has made it. You've had a team like Wisconsin get there. Ohio State's made it a couple times. Others, Purdue, Illinois, not one.
Well, not technically, but Maryland won in 2002, but they were a part of the.
But you know who they beat? Indiana.
Yep, they were part of the Big East then.
ACC.
Oh, they were the ACC. That's right. Yep.
ACC. You know, one more thing I want to talk about here for these games is the Razorbacks in Arkansas and John Calipari. What this team has done, like, you got to think about
John's Red Storm, man.
They weren't doing good for a hot stretch of the season.
They went 0-5 to start SEC play.
And the way they have bounced back has been so impressive. Boogie Flan.
Finally healthy.
You know, all the other kids in the portal they got as well. You've got Trevon Brazil. You've got John L. Davis. Ivisic as well. Arkansas right now, on paper, I think they're going to beat Texas Tech. I think they're going to the Elite Eight.
Really?
I think they're beating Texas Tech. 100%. Texas Tech, I feel like all they really have is JT Toppin. Granted, JT Toppin, arguably the best transfer guy this year who hit the portal from last season. Yeah. And Texas Tech, good program. Had some success with Chris Beard. Went to a national championship a few years ago. But Calipari, when it comes to March Madness.
It's crazy that is the Cinderella team we're talking about. A John Calipari-led team is the Cinderella of March.
It is.
Because we only had 2 12 seeds win, and that was pretty much it. We had an 11 seed win and a 10 seed win. And this Arkansas team, they hurt my St. John's Red Storm, the Rick Pitino, man. That sucks for St. John's because I was hoping that they would go on a long run. But you got to give credit to Calipari and this Arkansas team, the turnaround that they have had from 0-5 in SEC play to now to, trying to treading the SEC waters and, getting enough wins to make it as a 10 seed. Beat Kansas and Bill Self, which is never easy no matter what. I mean, they were the preseason #1 team. And then they beat St. John's, who was the best team in the Big East by a good margin. This Arkansas team, I mean, they've gotten some steam, but, man, I'd like Texas Tech a lot. That's going to be a very fun matchup, though.
I think that's the best matchup we have.
I really like that matchup. I think that's the latest matchup. Why are we having games start after 10 o'clock? That's the stupidest thing in the world. Like, have games start earlier in the day, like 3 or 4 o'clock. I don't need the games starting at 7. I don't need there to be games at 10:15 at night. Just start them earlier. I don't want to be staying up till 12:30 to watch these games.
It's on the West Coast. Plus, you have opening day for baseball. Could take away some
the
crowd.
West Coast doesn't care about baseball, please. Half the Dodgers fans out there didn't even know they had a team 10 years ago.
That's fair. That's very fair to say. This matchup, though, Arkansas, Texas Tech, is the one I'm highlighting throughout this. BYU, Alabama.
How about the Fighting Mormons, man?
2 teams offensively will shoot you out the gym.
Take the over in that game.
So the total over-under for this BYU-Alabama game, 175.5 points.
Ooh.
That's a lot.
Wow.
And to be honest with you, I think that might go over.
They're basically saying each team's going to score 86, 87 points.
And they probably will.
They probably will because that's going to be a really fun game to watch. That BYU-Wisconsin game was very good as well. Wisconsin made it tough in the end for BYU, but the Cougars ended up finally, winning it. But BYU is another one of those teams that we talked about before the tournament. If they get on a roll, they were one of the hottest teams in the country, ending the season. And they're showing it right now.
This is the farthest they've been since Jimmer Fredette in BYU. And I talked about this on episode 130. A.J. DeBansa, #1 overall prospect, coming in next year. So there's a lot of hype around this program.
$7 million in NIL, which is absolutely insane.
Trust me, they got that money out there in Utah.
Yeah, they do, because they ain't got much else to do.
I can tell you what else they got to do, but we'll save that for off this show. The one more matchup, SEC, Friday evening, 7:40 tip-off, Kentucky, Tennessee. 2 teams, Mark Pope, former BYU coach. Actually, real quick, before I even break down this a little more, think about Calipari, Mark Pope, and BYU. Calipari in Arkansas, leaving Kentucky. Mark Pope leaving BYU. going to Kentucky to replace Calipari, and now this year's BYU's team, all in the Sweet 16.
You know what my biggest takeaway from this entire season has been of March Madness, not just March Madness, but just NCAA men's basketball. It has been an absolute hell of a year for first-year coaches. You had Drake's head coach in McCollum go to Iowa. You've had Dusty May take Michigan to the Sweet 16 after winning 8 games last year. You've had John Calipari's first year at Arkansas take him to the Sweet 16. Mark Pope going to the Sweet 16. BYU, first-year head coach, going to the Sweet 16. All these first-year head coaches are having absolute years. And it's crazy to think about how a first-year head coach can make it to the NCAA tournament, let alone win a few games. Take notes, Ohio State. But no, it's been an absolute year for first-year head coaches, and it's something that I haven't seen in a long time where so much success early on from all these guys, especially for me at the big ones, Dusty May. I think what he's done at Michigan is unbelievable, winning the Big Ten tournament in year 1 and taking a god-awful program from Juwan Howard away and, making it to the Sweet 16, and I think that they're going to win. I think they're going to beat Auburn.
My issue with that, though, with the Michigan-Auburn game is I don't think the guards for Michigan match up that well compared to Auburn's guards. They do have the size. They have Lad Golden.
Yep.
They do have Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf's kind of been hit or miss so far in this tournament, but I think they match up really well against Janai Broom and Chad Baker Mazzara. I think Michigan's size is going to be a big advantage for them in this game, but it's kind of hard to go against Auburn. I think they have the better guard play, and I think they're just skilled. Too skilled. I don't like the point spread. Auburn's 9.5-point favorites.
No way.
It's the biggest spread of the games
Auburn
today.
wins by 10 points.
I agree there. I think Michigan easily covers this game, but I think Auburn still wins barely. I think this might be the tightest game to predict. I think is Michigan-Auburn.
Trying to predict games in this tournament is it's like throwing a dart in a wall while you're blindfolded. Because I predicted Clemson to go to the Elite Eight because of their size, and they lost to McNeese and they lost to Aura. They lost surely based only on Aura. That's it.
Nothing else.
And shout out Will Wade. I'm gonna miss my dream of you being in Columbus.
Sorry, buddy.
Can't wait for him to go to the Elite Eight in year 1 at NC State, and Jake Diebler goes 19-16 at Ohio State.
No,
next year.
Ohio State. They did get Gabe Cups, Indiana transfer.
Oh boy,
So
another undersized guard.
year,
I can't wait.
So you know how Ohio State went like 18-15 this year. Don't hop on the train next year when they go 19-14, fellas.
Yeah, and barely. And if they make it, they'll be in the first 4 and they'll lose.
We already know. It's okay.
Ohio
State's hitting more.
How did this team beat Kentucky by 20 points?
That's a good
That's
question.
the big. And they went into Purdue and won at Mackey Arena. Who knows?
Since we're on the topic again, pivot back here. Kentucky, Tennessee. There is no coach in the country that needs to make a Final Four appearance more than Rick Barnes.
Yes.
Fun fact: he's the longest tenured basketball coach at one specific program to yet make a Final Four.
How long's he been there?
He has been there really long.
Yes.
He has been there. He's like I said, he's the longest tenured coach at one school, and he's yet to make a Final
Barnes
Four.
has been at Tennessee for forever, and Tennessee's always a 4 seed or a 3 seed or even a 2 seed.
Yeah.
And
they
I
always
think even one time they were a 1 seed. But even when Tennessee being high seeds every year, they always lose.
Yes.
In the Sweet 16, it seems like, or the round of 32, or once in a blue moon they make it to the Elite Eight and they'll find a way to choke it.
He's been the head coach there since 2015. He was at Texas for a long time before with KD and them. So,
wow.
Rick Barnes, you need this big time because you've had guys. You've had Grant Williams come through the program. You had that elite Dalton Connect. But that team with Grant Williams that year, who lost to Loyola Chicago, that was the year for Tennessee. And they choked it to a team that ended up making the Final Four. So, but this is the year for Tennessee. They need to get over that hump. This Kentucky team, though, they're sneaky. Like, I feel as a 3 seed, they're pretty sneaky because regular season-wise, they started off the year good. They kind of fell a little bit throughout the year, but I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about Kentucky like they should be.
Can their style play win games when it matters, though? I mean, they've won back-to-back games, but at the same time, it's like, can they win high level, meaning Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games with a boring brand of basketball,
Right.
with a defensive juggernaut worth of basketball. They don't score the ball a ton, but they play really good defense. And we saw it with Alabama against St. Mary's. St. Mary's plays a defense, and they just couldn't stop Alabama. Sometimes offensive teams just overpower the defensive teams, and that's what I'm going to be looking out for. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. I think Kentucky wins that game, to be honest. Tennessee I don't get it. Every time I pick them to go on a run, they always lose. And Rick Barnes, the fact that Tennessee has not made a Final Four in the 10 years he's been there with the teams that they've had is crazy. So
Yeah, I have Kentucky winning as well offensively. Ortega away, Kobe Brea, Lamont Butler, if you don't know or remember, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, buzzer beater in the Final Four.
Yep.
Lamont Butler, another transfer guy.
Yep.
There you go. But this Kentucky team offensively, every time I watch them play Alabama in basketball, I just know they're going to both combine like 230 points.
Yep.
It feels like every single time. I remember the game last year. I think both teams had like over 110 points against each other, which was
great.
absurd.
I
Not
love it.
even in overtime. So this Kentucky team with Mark Pope taking over, replacing Calipari, I think it's been a much bigger success than everybody thought it would be down there in Lexington. But that's the kind of program Kentucky is.
They were, but yeah, I mean, you had such great resources. Kentucky's built to continue success. John Calipari kind of built that program up to be what it is today.
Back before
And
Rich Pitino.
Rick Pitino too, to be fair, in the 90s. But Calipari kind of continued it, brought it up, obviously won the national championship with Anthony Davis. And then now, with Mark Pope, and we'll see. I think Mark Pope's a hell of a coach. And I think that this Kentucky team's just going to continue to thrive. Now, the SEC is a juggernaut, but it's still Kentucky. They'll always find a way to make the NCAA tournament.
We look at everyone left in the tournament in the Sweet 16, kind of bouncing off our original topic I had. All of them are Power 4 teams.
Sad.
All from 4 different conferences. Not even no Big East is left. You have Big 10, SEC, ACC, Big 12.
Yep.
You don't have any sneak team from
Any
Missouri
St.
Valley?
Peter's, any George Mason,
No Atlantic
or
10.
Roberts.
Not even Big East.
Nope. Well, Villanova had a down year, and St. John's was the best team.
Villanova's been down a couple years.
Yeah, they have. They miss Jay Wright a ton.
They do miss Jay Wright, but I don't know if you've heard the news about Villanova. And, see, this is another issue I've had with the tournament. These coaches are leaving during the tournament still. You have Will Wade being announced on NC State.
The transfer portal being open during the tournament is stupid. So you shouldn't have players transferring and all about when the tournament is still going on.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense. Like the Dent kid from New Mexico, right once New Mexico lost the next day. And Rick Pitino's kid, Richard Pitino, took the job at Xavier, which we'll see. He couldn't get it done at Minnesota.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can get it done at Xavier.
And Sean Miller going to Texas.
Right away. Yeah, and Sean Miller's going to Texas. Ben McCollum is the Drake head coach for 1 year, is going to Iowa. Who's going to Minnesota? That one dude. I can't remember his name, but there was another head coach that was going to Minnesota to take over for their job.
There's a lot. The Bryant head coach is replacing Ryan Odom at VCU.
Yep.
Where Odom is taking the Virginia job. And a fun little nugget and a rumor that sounds pretty accurate. Maryland's coach, Kevin Willard, more than likely going to be the next head coach at Villanova.
Really?
That's the rumor
He's
out
gonna
there.
leave Maryland, huh?
So that's something to watch out for, depending on how the rest of the season goes with Maryland, because Villanova wanted Richard Pitino, but he chose Xavier. So watch out for Kevin Willard to Villanova. That's a possibility.
Choosing Xavier over Villanova is kind of crazy to me, but hey, Villanova hasn't been the same since Jay Wright left.
They have not been. But they still got pedigree. In the Big East, I think the Big East as a whole, ever since Villanova and Jay Wright has left, it hasn't been the same conference. Creighton and McDermott, they've always been stout.
They always make a small little run. They win a game or two in the tournament, but they never do anything with it.
They never have.
They never make the Final Four.
That is another coach that needs to get over the hump.
Greg McDermott,
because that program in Creighton, they've been so good. Ever since he's been
what's
there.
that dude from Iowa's going there? The Freeman kid
Yes.
from Iowa, the guy that averaged 16 and like 8
Yeah.
rebounds. He's going to Creighton, so that'll be a fun team to watch again next year. So going back to the original topic, before we go, do you think NIL is ruining Cinderella stories?
NIL is ruining Cinderella stories because all these good players from all these smaller programs, they're leaving. They're all leaving. You've seen it here at our school, Toledo. You have
The entire team's in the transfer
the entire
portal.
team is practically in the transfer portal.
Yeah, throw me and him out there next year at the 1 and the 2.
Might have to. Fun little episode coming next week as well about that topic. So be on the lookout for that. But yes, NIL, transfer portal, it's ruined the Cinderella story in college basketball. We've seen it really the last couple years, the exception of that Florida Atlantic year and San Diego State. You look at both of those teams and how many of those players in that specific game are still in this tournament.
Yep. There's the kid from Arkansas, and then there's Golden, and then there's one other kid.
There's
And
Butler from San Diego State.
Yep.
Is that Kentucky? You got other Florida Atlantic guys. You have 4 guys who are from Florida
See, to
Atlantic.
me, it's to
Still
where
here.
I don't completely agree with it, but I can also see where people are coming from. Because, like, to me, in order to transfer, you either have to not play at all or you're really good in the mid-majors. And if you're really good in the mid-majors, most of the time your team will either be close or making the NCAA tournament. So your best players who are with like the Dent kid from New Mexico, 20 points per game. That New Mexico team was loaded, 10 seed, and they were a Mountain West school. He's now transferring. I think that's the new day and age, is that you're going to perform at these mid-majors and you're going to get higher opportunities at higher levels. I don't think it's ruining it, because I think that if you have a good mid-major team and you make March, you're probably going to lose your players, but you still have them for this tournament. You're still going to try to win with them for this tournament. Like the FAU team. We knew that team was going to break up right after, and they didn't actually. They stayed around for one more year with Dusty May, and then they transferred and all went their separate ways. And the same with San Diego State. I mean, it's going to be the same with all these mid-major. I mean, the DeVries kid from West Virginia, now he's at Indiana. He was at
dad.
Drake with his dad. Then he moved to West Virginia. Now he's at Indiana. The best players in mid-majors are always going to leave, but they still have to play their games. And I still think that Cinderella stories can happen. I just think that this tournament's been an outlier. There hasn't been a real Cinderella story. Arkansas is not really they're not like really a Cinderella story. It's cool and all. It's still John Calipari. This team has 5 stars on it. I mean,
Right.
like that to me is not, a Cinderella. Cinderella is these teams that come out of nowhere, these players that come out of nowhere, these 3 stars that are seniors, that are juniors, that have played for
Yes.
these teams for years. Oral Roberts a few years ago with Max Asmus, an unbelievable performance. Nobody knew his name before the game against Ohio State, where they upset them. Same with St. Peter's, and Shaheen Holloway got a job after that with Seton Hall. With Doug Eater and that whole team. Oakland last year with Trey Townsend, Jack Golke, these players that no one's heard of, these 4th and 5th year seniors that win games in March that they're not supposed to.
That Oakland team had Rocket Watts on it as well.
Yeah,
Former
from Michigan State. I don't think it's ruining it, but I do think it's hindering chances of them having continued success.
And, we're already seeing kind of a domino effect with how this can really affect not just the program, but schools. Look at St. Francis University, Pennsylvania. They're going to D3
Yep.
in the 26-27 calendar year because they don't have the money to keep people around. And it's sports related.
They made the NCAA tournament this year.
It is mostly
made it.
sports related.
They lost in the first 4, but they made the tournament.
Yes.
They beat Central Connecticut State in the conference tournament to win and go to the NCAA tournament. And Central Connecticut was like 25-7. It's sad, to be honest with you. I feel bad for the lower level schools. I saw somewhere that colleges that are having trouble funding their programs, St. Peter's was on there.
Yep.
St. Peter's just went to the Elite 8 a few years ago. one of my favorite, probably my favorite Cinderella story of all time.
It is.
Because it was a 15 seed, and they went all the way to the Elite Eight. And it was just a really cool story with Doug Eater in that program to where they came out of nowhere. Like literal nowhere. No one knew who any of these guys are. And then a team called the Peacocks went to the Elite Eight. You can say what you want about George Mason and VCU. In modern day, it's St. Peter's. And it sucks because, I mean, that entire team broke up after that. But, like, they're going bankrupt. And they just made the Elite Eight. You know how much funding you get from doing that? That's just to keep their players. They let go Shane Holloway. They had to hire a new head coach. They have to get new players because a bunch of their players transferred after St. Peter's season ended. It sucks, but that's just the new age of college basketball with NIL. I still think you can have Cinderella stories, but it's going to be a lot harder to keep them around.
Yeah, it will be. You know, the what's it called? What's the word? What does Cinderella wear? I'm tripping right now.
Glass
the
slippers?
Glass slippers. I think the glass is shattered.
Yeah.
For the Cinderella stories moving forward.
Or it doesn't fit anymore.
Doesn't fit anymore. So, you know what they say? When the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. It's all right. But don't be laughing over there. That's all right, though. But seriously, I think that Cinderella stories, it's still going to happen because of the parity of basketball. You can have a dude who has
still
a
had
hot
some
night.
12 seeds winning.
Exactly. You still had a couple 12s.
McNeese and Colorado State. It's just not like it wasn't this out of nowhere team that like nobody thought was going to win. Like I thought it was. I thought it was going to be Lipscomb. Lipscomb got their butts handed them by Iowa State.
I don't know if we'll see a UMBC or a Fairleigh Dickinson beating a 1 seed in a long time from now. No. I think that kind of stretch is done for a 1-16 seed. I mean, it's only happened twice still.
Yeah.
But the ones are just that good. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. And this year in particular, it's the best they've been since that 2008 year with Memphis, with Kansas, with North Carolina, with UCLA.
Now, if you had to bet, would you bet that all 1 seeds make it? Would you rather take all 1 seeds, or would you rather take, the field? You can have a few 1 seeds. You either have all 1 seeds or 3, or like other. What would you rather take if you were betting?
This year in particular, it's so hard.
Because I would probably say the field. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 1 seeds make it, but I still think that I think at Michigan State's still going to make it, in my opinion.
I think Michigan could, too.
I think Texas Tech can do it. I like JT Toppin. I like that team.
Arkansas could bite.
Maybe Arkansas can get a run. BYU, we talked about.
I think Duke's just that good, though. I think BYU
I still think
gets
Duke's
past.
winning it all. I still, there's nothing from what I learned from the first weekend that doesn't make me think Duke is not going to win it all. Cooper Flagg, unbelievable player. John Schreier, unbelievable coach, succeeding Mike Krzyzewski. He's done a hell of a job, and this Duke team's for real.
They are for real. Better than anybody else. Shout out Cameron. No shot. Your Blue Devils don't win a national championship this year. That's going to wrap up episode 133 of the Ball and Beats podcast. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit that push notification bell to stay up to date on all new videos. Stay up to date on a lot of news we got coming your guys' way here moving forward as well.
A lot of stuff.
Next week's episode, a unique episode. It's going to be a fun one. First interview in a while as well. Keep an eye out for it. We'll see y'all next week here. Take care. Peace out.
Go Tigers.